Tuan Min Lei, if this one had been pronounced correctly. They will be playing for 75 minutes blitz games, time being 5 minutes each player. So I hope we're going to be covering this for the next 60 minutes, more or less. I hope the sound is okay. I hope we're multi-broadcasting. We will not be using the engine during this stream. We'll be trying to figure out ourselves what might be the best moves in various positions. And we'll try to understand, adapt ourselves to the time limits here that the other players are abiding to. So Magnus won the first game. So we're just starting now. I've just opened up the computer now. I just put on the streaming software and platforms. I hope the sound is in order. I hope we are on the platforms that we've advertised that we're going to be covering live the struggle in between the two players. Magnus being the favorite, I'm pretty much sure about this. And we're going to go with the second match, which actually goes automatically. Apologies for not being very prompt. So Tuan Min Lei now playing with white. The Indian game, dominating in the center with those white pawns. Of course, the bishop on f1, bishop on c1, they all need being developed. Whose turn is now Tuan Min Lei. So this guy can play. I guess h3 can be played. Let me just draw the arrows. He just closes the center with a move like d5. Yeah, bishop is going to play g7, and probably we're going to see castle short, or queen e7, or maybe castle long. So that's to be discovered, my friends. We're going to see this one in a minute. In a minute, literally, because they, so to speak, they got 4 minutes and 20 seconds in total. So they literally don't have too much time. So that's speed chess championship, by the way. Those of you guys that love the classic chess will just have to accept that this is a rapid. This is a speed, not even rapid. This is actually blitz. This is absolutely blitz. It's not even a rapid chess. Okay. So I think I should be live on TikTok as well, and on Twitch and chess.com, on Facebook, kick.com, and yeah, I think I said that, and YouTube. Okay. So white's turn to play. What does it mean later do with the bishop on c1? You're supposed to be getting this guy somewhere, right? Where do you get bishop? Bishop e3. Knight plays on c5. A bit of pressure onto the e4, which currently white just defends it, but also it could be an outpost potentially, but you got to be careful, because if the pawn takes here, if the knight takes the pawn, there is no more defender for the knight. Rook takes and queen takes. That one doesn't work. h3 being just a preventive move. How they call it in chess, a prophylactic move. h3 stops the knight to go to g4, or the bishop, that is. Oops. So there is no knight or bishop going to g4. Knight bd7 wants to say normally that the f-pawn will be pushed. Hi there, my friend, via YouTube. So when knight plays on d7, that announces f7 to f5 coming down the board. That's exactly how these Indian games revolve around. The f-pawn for black is bound to happen. I'm not sure if Magnus is going to push it now, but it's very likely. Queen e7 first. He keeps up with the development, but I'm telling you, and actually we're going to see it, that this move is going to happen. Knight bd. I reckon white wants to play similarly, f2 to f4. I wonder if Magnus wants to develop bishop a6 first, and then perhaps... No, he pushes straight away, exactly as I thought. Exactly as I said. f5 and f4, exactly as I said. Now, you may want to take with the bishop if I get this one correctly. Or can you take it with, say, rook, though? Yeah, you kind of can. You can take with the rook. If pawn takes on e4, rook's going to take on f8. It can be played, I guess, but you have to factor in the the g6 to g5, I guess, if you play this. So, although this guy is kind of dropping. Complicated one. What to take with? Just to preserve the natural way here, it's bishop f4 would be, right? The correct piece to capture. Yeah, there might be a check coming here from the bishop to d4, but then you can drop it back. Bishop e3, bishop takes, rook takes. Most definitely, black pawn has to be captured. Knight to b4. You're talking about knight to b5. Okay, so he took with a pawn. He took with a pawn. That means queen may play onto h4. Bishop c3 first, trading off. This guy is very much attackable by black. Exactly right, as I said. Yeah. e4 being taken. e4 being defended by the knight and by the queen. So you can't say you're gonna take it with the bishop. It's not working because you're gonna blunder unless you wanna trade the knight with the bishop. b4 may not be good, b4 for white, because black's going to take en passant, and then they're going to be opening the a file. b4, I don't think it's good for white. For the reason I've just said, it offers the black rook all the a file. So b4 not playable. I don't think so. Let me look at the material. 4 to 6, 4 to 6. Okay. Probably king f7 now. King f7 in order to claim the e file for the other rook, or maybe he wants to make a battery or something. Rook goes on the 7th rank, takes probably a draw. King f for rook e1 because the other black rook will play on e8, very likely. Rooks will be engaged on the e file, both white rook and the black rook as well. You got to do something with the rooks, and rooks are thriving on open files or semi-open files, so we're going to see a rook to e8 and rook to e1 sooner or later. Sooner or later. The problem for white is that he's having two isolated pawns on h and f. So that's there you go, exactly as I said, rook e8, bishop f3 now. So as I said, guys, it's a problem with the isolated pawns. Namely this guy and this guy. And the black king now just simply goes for the weaknesses. The f4 is attackable by the black king, and you do not have another pawn to naturally defend it. So you gotta have to use either king or rook at some point. But now the black king attacks this guy. This is serious. When you play king to g3, you give away on the rook fe1 idea. So actually black had claimed the e file. So guys, this is very instructive in order to understand once again what it means to having the weakness of an isolated pawn. And the problem for white is that there are two isolated pawns. So if black is to win the game, is because primarily due to the isolated pawns. So he gave up on a pawn already. He gave up on the f4, which I don't see why Magnus shouldn't take it. If there is a check, I guess you can just drop back or anything. That's it. He took it. He goes to e5. Very interesting, very provocative, because if you're going to play this, king's probably gonna play f or f6 probably. And even if you capture, it's going to be rooks trading, and that's about it. And now, my friends, black enjoys a pawn majority. And this guy was pinned previously with rook f8. The bishop couldn't have moved. You might do a check here, though. You might do check on e2. It is doable. It is playable. So he's just grinding here. Pawn majority. 2 versus 1 on the king side. 2 pawns versus 1. And unfortunately for white, if you go for rook e2, you allow the black king to move on to d4. So it's incredibly difficult to hold a position. And look at this, he only plays rook d2, rook d1. And now there is a free pawn, there is a passed pawn claiming now the fourth rank, and this guy is going to fall. I'm afraid the rook will take c4. Rook c1 in order to protect it. Okay. He can't push the pawn just yet because the rook will be hanging, so black can't play. Oh, that is completely up to you. Thanks for stopping by anyway. Okay, so of course that's being done because black has a passed pawn here. That will be moving down the board and it's just game over. The bishop can't move because if you move the bishop away, we might have this, takes, and also the bishop supporting potential pawn's advancement. Let's go for the next game now. Castle quickly. Queen's Gambit declined. Okay. It's worth mentioning that knight c3 might be met with b4, so you got to be careful about developing knight c3 now. So he took on b. I wonder if white, if black takes, rooks came off the board right now. Bishop takes. I guess knight c3 is interesting now. If you play this, it's going to be queen a4 check and stuff. And also bishop being forked the same time with the check, but it might be bishop c6, so I'm not sure. Knight c3 being played, attacks b5 though. Could be a pin here, bishop g5. That could be a pin at some point. So let's see. How is black going to respond to this? If he's going to push the pawn, or if he's going to play bishop e, or something else. Or c. Or maybe knight c6. I mean, there are quite a few ideas here. Bishop e7 in order to castle, and if there is any bishop g5, probably it's good to have bishop on e7. c5, or maybe you're going to develop the black knight on b8. Okay, we're going to see what he decides to play. There you go, b4. Queen a4, I did say that. And bishop c6, I did say that too, but I stopped there. Magnus continues with knight b5. Knight b5. I think we're going to see something like knight to e5 from white, which will be challenging this bishop that pins the knight to the queen. So it's worth mentioning that. A knight e5 could be played indeed. Knight e5. That prevents, exactly as I said, it tries to say, if you're going to play knight e5, my knight's going to take, your pawn's going to take, but you're still going to be in a pin. So knight d7 wants to say, I am going to stop your knight, I'm going to trade them, you're not going to make my bishop go away. So I think that's exactly what it says. Knight f6 to d7. Okay. But actually black moved again a piece in the opening. Instead of playing bishop e7 or other, developing move. You have to develop your pieces. You got to get your knights and your bishops and castle that king. Anyway, I assume knight d7 was played just in order to prevent knight e5. So yeah. Well, it doesn't stop it completely. I guess you can still play the knight e5 if you want to. Knight e5, knight takes, pawn takes, and still the bishop is going to come off the board somehow, unless it drops bishop d7. which is quite unorthodox. What can I say? That's interesting. Queen a5, away from pin. Double attack on c7. Look at this one, guys. That kind of forces bishop d6 because knight and the queen attack twice on c7. So you can't ignore that. I mean, you can't play bishop e7 because it's gonna be a check, and you're gonna have an incredibly uncomfortable position. So you have to play something like bishop d6 now to defend c7. Of course, knight may take the bishop. That may very well be. That may very well be. And then maybe queen can take on b4. Nevertheless, c7 must be protected. I don't think you can afford not to. Unless you want to trade the knight with the bishop. Bishop c6 takes the knight. You could do that. It might be also bishop captures. That means deflecting the queen from attacking on c7 together with the knight. Maybe very well. It could be. So I think two big candidate moves for black, either bishop d6 or bishop captures b5. These are the two candidate moves, I think, for black. We're going to see if actually Minh decides to go one way or another. Is this the Vietnamese? Yeah. So Grandmaster from Vietnam. Bishop takes, exactly as I said. Either bishop d6 or bishop captures b5. He decided the latter. Bishop takes. So pawn took the knight. Queen took back, and bishop d6 regardless, because obviously you want to castle the black king. Now, is Magnus going to reply with e4? Queen takes c4. Again, I think we've got two big candidate moves here. Both of them quite reasonable. Bishop g5 attacks the queen. I don't think there's something bad in itself. Queen moves away from the bishop attack. And again, either queen takes or e4. Unless you have other tactics. There you go, queen c4 and castle short by black. Now again, yeah, I was about to say get the rook and double up, making a battery on the c file, but e4 is going to happen, my friends. Sooner or later, you want to take all the space. All the space available. Knight develops, attacking the white queen now with tempo. Where do you move the queen? Do you go b5? He goes d3. He goes d3. Knight b8 to d7. I would go e4 any day here. Or maybe knight d2 in order to encourage the bishop. No, e4 exactly as I said. e4. So now he got a lot of space in the center. And he would be very much able to play something like e5 also very, very, very soon. Also, you will be opening the diagonal for this guy. So e5, I think, for all the best reasons, is an available move. And e5 will take the natural developing square for the knight, which can't go on f6 because simply because if you just consider bishop takes, or maybe even better, pawn forking. So you can't play knight f6. Queen goes on b5. And another idea would be exactly as I said, e5, which is going to happen. And yeah, let's assume bishop e7, bishop captures, rook captures. And then we can play this knight somewhere. Somewhere meaning maybe knight d2. And then you enjoy this very powerful bishop's diagonal as well. Queen to b8, moved away. From the rook c file, mind you. So the black queen, he chose, Minh, the Vietnamese grandmaster, chose to play the queen out of the c file, which is a semi-open file. He moved it away because you just simply never know. It is not safe to keep the queen where the rook is. So if you're having a choice, try to move them away. Is this guy actually hanging, or is there a trap here? Well, the black knight can't really move because you're going to win the other knight. So the b6 black knight can't play. Can't play anyway. You can't move anywhere this knight. This knight is pretty much paralyzed. It can't move anywhere. There is another problem here. There is another problem. It's got only 16 seconds. No, there was no problem. There was a hanging pawn. You could just take it very simply straight away. So the problem from Minh Le is that he's running out of time. He's got just like, what, 13 seconds? Bishop now, incredibly powerful on the c3, g7 diagonal, and Magnus is enjoying the bishop pair. The bishop and f8 just simply wants to protect g7 and perhaps to open up the c file for the black rook. H, okay. Bishop to f1, probably he wants to make a sort of pin or something. Anyway, white is boasting the bishop pair. That's very important. Plus, as a bonus, Magnus has 1 minute. And unfortunately for Minh Le, he's only having like, what, 3 seconds? This is so difficult to play against probably, arguably, the best player on the planet, and having just 3 seconds on your clock. This is not a very envious scenario. This is so difficult. And another bonus for white, they've got a free passed pawn on the b file. This guy is free to go, free to move, and to being promoted. Looks like another victory is in the bag for Magnus, looking at this position here. Primarily because of the b2 white pawn. That pawn is actually key to winning. And I guess for white now, it's just a matter of trading everything, getting rid of all the pieces. Trade, trade, trade. Simplify and trade. He can start the tradings now. Bishop takes b6, or maybe you want to push the b2 pawn. No, he engages all the pieces in the attack. All of them. He keeps the bishop pair. He keeps the bishop pair. He reduces the piece's mobility. He's having a infallible structure, pawn and bishop here. And he's doing incredibly well. Now the bishop can't move anywhere because there is a checkmate. You can't move it anywhere because it's blocked by its own knight. They do play in 4 seconds now. So this is a bullet chess. Queen to d7, my play. White queen to d7, bishop f3. Again, Magnus is proposing trades and trades and trades. Bishop attacks the knight now twice. He wants to trade once again. 2 seconds for Magnus, 3 seconds for the other guy. Very, very sharp. Magnus attacks 2 weaknesses at once. Pawn is going to fall on e6. Checkmate threat or knight is dropping, my friends. Check though first. Check again. More checks coming. More checks incoming. And he dropped now the pieces. I don't think there's a problem. The white king will not get checkmated, but there is a problem of getting flagged. So this is very, very stressful for them, I would imagine. I would imagine. That's it. Yeah, you can play queen b1, but it's not going to be anything, really. That's it. He blundered the piece because that's a fork. And even the best super grandmasters, when they go low on time, I mean, guys, 1 second on a clock, you're not gonna see a bunch of things. Queen forks the king and the bishop now. So we're gonna go automatically to the 4th game, a 3-0 for Magnus. Magnus black and Minh Le playing white. We could see g3, we could see knight c3, of course, or bishop d3 for that matter. Bishop d3, knight c3, bishop e2. He decided, challenging now the center. Knight c3 is a normal stuff you could take with a pawn to maintain the, or with the knight. He chooses to play with the knight. What did he do? I think, what did he do? He blundered something. He blundered. He shouldn't have played knight d4. He should have taken with the pawn, as I said. Look at this. I'm talking about this position, guys. and Minh took with the knight, thus subjecting the g2. I don't think you take with the knight, you take with a pawn here. And Magnus just sanctioned him on the spot. I'm sorry about that. Unless there is a crazy sideline that I'm not aware of, which means you willingly give up on the g2 pawn. But I kind of like doubt. I don't think there is any sideline. It was just simply a blunder. He shouldn't have taken it with knight d4. I think he should have taken with the pawn. Pawn takes d4, not knight takes d4, because now you've got what you got. Okay, let me just play a couple of more other moves. That has happened anyway. Okay, bishop takes c4. Yeah, I think we're going to see knight f6 or knight c5. Which one's which? Knight f6, because if you go knight c5, it's still attackable with the b2 to b4. So that might be something. But he goes regardless. He goes regardless. b4, exactly as I said. I couldn't think of anything else. You need to kick that knight away. So now you're going to go probably knight to d7. You're going to play knight d7. Rewrote the knight anyway. Better position for black here. I think black king is a bit more secure than the white king here. Of course it is. Totally. Okay. And if you decide to go with the stuff like this, you will be subjecting your king very likely in the future to some checks coming over the dark square diagonal. So it is very uncomfortable, and especially this bishop, the light square black bishop, cutting through the light squares. All the white squares are controlled by that bishop. And the white king is not that great, and if you decide to push f3, we got to be careful here, because the black rook actually, it is very eager to, having moved the bishop on b7 and the knight playing, we're going to find the square for the knight. So if you push the f, I'm not sure about this one, so he probably tries to do something like bishop g5 maybe. Now Magnus opens up the A file. So he wants to open up the A file for the other rook. And there is the queen and the bishop controlling the, oopsie, what did I do, man? Oh, yeah, press the wrong tab. So yeah, we've got the bishop and the queen looking this way and the black rook this way, and very difficult with the white to preventing breaking of the B file. So he's gonna take A, B, exactly as I said. You can't really stop rook A1, black rook A1. You can't stop it. And you can't move the king either, because there is the bishop here. So it's a critical square. You can't even touch it. You can't even run away. And Magnus just simply wants to trade off everything. He's got pawn majority. He's got 5 pawns versus 4. White king is not that happily positioned. And Magnus goes for the tradings now, and he wants to simplify the game and capitalize on the terrific bishop pair and the A file, and he's just reigning supreme here. Okay, pieces coming off the board now. Rook being attacked. Rook under attack. Gotta move away. B4, by the way, hanging. So it looks like Magnus is going to win even more pawn, increasing his pawn majority already. So if the b4 is falling, it's going to be almost mission impossible for white here. Going to be mission impossible. I don't know what you do with the b pawn if you're playing white here. Okay, so he attacks the rook, as I said. I mean, what else could you possibly play here, really? f6, supported by the bishop. Now the g5 white bishop has to move to safety. whatever safety means here. If you play f4, we could have another pawn advancement, g5, and then you have to move again. Probably g3. So you have to move the bishop anyway. Yeah, not very optimistic for white in this fourth game in between Magnus Carlsen and Tuan Minh Le from Vietnam. A difficult game here for white. There is no good move for that bishop. Probably Minh Le already considers to just simply dropping this game as well. Bishop f4, and this pawn is going to move down the board. b4 had fallen, guys. b4 had been captured. Again, so he enjoys a massive pawn majority. The bishop can play very nicely on c5, exerting huge pressure. King supports now the pawns. This guy's going to move. f3, thus weakening this, and after g5, this guy's going to fall. So he can go whatever he wants. He defends with the rook, getting the c file. Look how it's like a constricting snake here. Magnus just taking all the available space and options here. My God. And after you take the pawn, the black rook will be attacking two bishops at the same time. Again, as I said, mission impossible for white here. White king is capitalized. White rooks are disconnected, my friends. And above all else, just 10 seconds or less on the clock. That makes it, again, impossible to survive. Rook on g1 being attacked by the bishop on c5. There is simply no good moves I can think of here, my friends. I don't even know what to say if g5 is going to happen, thus making space for the bishop to go to safety. You can move right now to safety if you want to, if that's what he has a plan, or maybe even better, b7 perhaps even better. But if you, yeah, you could b7. There you go. He plays c6 though, but obviously we've got the two black rooks reigning. This is just too much for white. Let's go with the next game, my friends. Oh, they will be playing. I'm sure they will be starting in a second. If I understood correctly, it's like 75 minutes of 5 minutes each. If the format was clear in my my understanding, yeah. So Magnus Carlsen now on Minh Le. Later on, guys, about 6:30 p.m. GMT, if you're in this time area, it's gonna be Jan Nepomniachtchi no the backup the Storov. So now we're gonna try go back to Magnus and Minh Le. Okay, we could do a quick puzzle in between until the guys return. Very instructive games, by the way. Looks like Magnus is actually killing it here. I mean, poor Minh Le. I don't even know how to say. It must be very difficult. So Hikaru Nakamura yesterday triumphed against Jose Martinez with 14-8 victories. Now we're having Magnus Carlsen playing Tuan Minh Le. They already played 4 games. He won all the 4 games. I think it's a big gap in between the two players in terms of understanding and speed and all. Probably Tuan Minh Le is a little bit taken aback by the personality of Magnus Carlsen. He's probably over-impressed, and he can't perform at his real strength. That's what happens when you play arguably the best chess player on the planet. You may not be finding psychologically the best attitude to fight, because chess is a psychological fighting game. So guys, let's do a quick puzzle together, and if Magnus returns, and the other guy will be looking at the stuff that they play. Okay, what are we supposed to be playing in this position? Looks to me, if I am to place the queen here, I'd be making some pressure on this diagonal, attacking the rook. I think that might be interesting. I do have a check here, but I'm not sure about this check because they just simply defend. So I'm not sure what exactly. Oh, wait a minute. There is also bishop f5. Okay, let me play this. Yes. There is bishop f5. I was threatening to play checkmate on c2. And now the queen retreated on e2, defending. I could still go with my old idea, queen to d5. I can still play that. I'm not sure that's the best though, but I think it could be played. Should I try it? Oh, sugar. What was it? Okay, bishop f5. The first move was correct. Ooh. Oh man, the bishop, because if the pawn took, the queen would have captured the queen. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. But they are always so tricky. Okay, let's go again to Magnus Carlsen and Minh. Okay, have they returned to the board? I can see 4-0. Do they keep playing now, or what happened? I'm looking at the results. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, no, they're supposed to be coming back and keep playing, right? I think it's 75 minutes or 5 minutes. So they have to keep playing. Okay, so probably time for another attempt to making another puzzle. Okay, playing here with black. If I check the king, what's going on? Do I like... I think it makes sense, this check. I could do... Wait a minute. If I capture pawn takes, right? And I'm getting checked. Can I do this check, though? And rook's going to take. But then I'm going to check this and I'm going to win the rook. Ooh, I think I'm going to win the rook, guys. So, I think it's a5, king being checked. Okay. And if white rook captures, we're going to do rook b1, pushing the king away from defending the rook. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So now black is going to play rook c1 to b1, checking the king. Okay, even if they stay on the same file protecting the rook, the move that wins for black and solves the puzzle is simply a rook a1, because we're checking the king, that's a skewer, and we attack the rook behind them. So we're going to play now rook to a1, king is going to have to move whatever, and we are going to simply take the rook for ourselves. Okay, let's have another attempt here to make a puzzle. Complicated one, pardon me. What's going on here? We may have a check. Knights being free though. We do have a queen a4 check. I'm not sure it's the best one. If they block with the bishop, what exactly I'm supposed to do next? But you know something interesting? I could potentially attack the queen if I want. And then making some pressure on c7 including. By the way, guys, if you just came now for the stream, I'll be returning back to Magnus Carlsen and Minh in just a matter of seconds. I think the guys just took a small break. So I thought in the meantime, maybe it's the right moment to try to solve a puzzle or two. So the question is if we should take the pawn on e3 or should we attack the queen onto e7 with knight d5. If they capture the knight, I actually lost a piece here. So should I perhaps take the pawn first? But if that were to happen, bishop takes on c3, you see. So I'm not sure really. But I'm winning a rook later down the road, you see. So I'm still winning a rook though, because knight c7 will be played with tempo and the black rook will be captured though. I'm not sure. I'm not. What about this? Still not sure. Knight d5. Hello there, David. Good to see you. How's it going, man? It's Magnus Carlsen playing Minh. Okay, let's just go knight d5. Exactly as I said. So now I'm in check. I'm going to take with the queen. Okay, he defends with this one. Let me see if I can do something else. Oh, of course, something else always being queen. Is the queen, right? We take the queen, I hope. Okay, cool stuff. Let's go back to Magnus. Let's go back to Magnus Carlsen and Minh.
He's got Catalan, he's got
Okay, where's the games? Because I want to put them on a screen and we can see them together, guys. There you go. They started. Let's do this, guys. Okay. Okay. Magnus being white, developed the bishop on b2. Very happy bishop. I guess you want to play the D pawn. He played the D pawn, not to D4 though. He played just to D3. Minh put the rook on the same file where the queen is. Could you play queen A4? No, he played pawn A4. He played the pawn to A4. So rook A to C, rook F to D. So I think rook AC is something that we're going to be seeing, guys. A5, first thing first. Making a bad pawn structure for black here. Of course, he doesn't take, but instead he attacks the queen with this move. Interesting. I guess if the white queen takes, we're going to see something like rook b8. It may be very well. So if queen takes b5, this pawn on b5, guys, could be something like a poison pawn. That's why Magnus doesn't even take it. Do you know what else it means? It means that actually the knight can't move. Well, you can move here, but it doesn't make any sense. He rolls down the pawns. Queen being attacked, queen to d2, goes to safety now. Probably he wants to play queen to g5. I don't think that's a bad idea. Also, as I said on a few occasions, rook ac is a very good idea here for white. It is always highly advisable to put our rooks on open files or semi-open files. So rook ac1 makes a lot of sense in the future for white. Again, for black could be rook f to d8 as a candidate move. That makes sense. You got to look for outposts for developing your guys and stuff. So that's the reason I'm making these arrows, and I'm going to leave them there. So rook f to d. What else is here? For black, okay, rook f to d8. That springs to mind. Queen takes a5. Could be queen captures a5. Queen captures a5, yeah. Let me do this one as well. Could be this. Queen takes or rook fd. And I think that's what it is. That's the status quo. If you play queen to a, you should be able to getting the other knight to play at some point b6. But you got to be careful about the knight on f6 though. Because if bishop takes it and you take back, you're going to have a very bad pawn structure. Bishop takes straight away on f3. Bishop takes, and as I said, queen a5. That means queen a5, that white has to be careful about playing, saying rook ac, because a2 is hanging. So maybe not that comfortable. Or perhaps you want to play the bishop, but I don't know where exactly you can play the bishop. Or maybe you want to open up the a. It's very difficult to... a3, I think, is a good one here for white. Do you know why, guys? Because the pawn can't take is pinned. Queen would take the queen for free. So a3 means you can't take the pawn because white queen takes the black queen. And also challenges the pawn on b4, which I want to take. And when I take it, I'm attacking the queen with the rook. And also the rook attacks a7. So there you go. There you go. a3 and takes. We did say that. Queen e3. If queen takes, he goes with double pawns because he thinks that the bishop pair is more than enough for him to actually playing a very good game here. So he's very happy. So Jamie, sorry guys, I haven't seen the messages over the TikTok because it's not being updated on my other chat box on the Streamlabs on my OBS. So Jamie, I can't respond promptly to your messages unless you're gonna be messaging me via YouTube or something. But I'll try to alternate the tabs so I can read out my friends' messages via TikTok as well. So they had been traded, and white again is boasting the bishop pair. That's another quite instructive game here because we're gonna see how to win actually. So rook takes a7. Again, I think it's a very difficult position for Minh here. This guy is isolated, so rook plays on b8 exactly with the sole purpose, amongst others, to, not the sole purpose, it's a multi-purpose stuff, whatever you do, to protect. I wonder if rook a8 would be doable here. Rook takes, bishop takes. We can discuss it for a while. We can discuss this. Well, he can play bishop to d4 for the time being. He opted for king f1, though. He opted for king f1. B3, because this is the only idea he's got on the board now. If this guy is falling, then it's going to be incredibly difficult to play with two knights versus two incredibly active bishops. Okay, pressure on the b3. Knight plays aiming at e3. So the question is, are you taking, or what are you going to do? Are you going to play this for this eventually? I mean, yeah, we can discuss this. We can definitely discuss it. No, he takes it straight away. He takes the knight. King gets a bit closer to lend a hand. And also especially to stopping this guy from coming down the board. So it's good to have the king attacking and things. The idea being, after king d1, rook takes b3, rook takes b3, king takes c2. That's the practical idea behind it. In case you guys wonder, after king d1, Magnus wants to take rook, captures black pawn on b3. That's exactly what he wants to do. King d1 for this. Rook takes, then king takes back with bonus. That is one extra pawn. And we know what that means, guys. One extra pawn means the difference in between winning and losing. So, yeah. Okay, he tries to create more disruptive pawn moves with this kind of stuff. But so exactly as I said, rook takes b3. That's exactly what I said. Rook b3, rook takes, king takes. I did call that. Now you can move the bishop wherever you want, encouraging more trades to happen if that's what you want to do. But it looks to me that Magnus wants to play rook a1 to a8. Check. He goes for this weakness, though. I don't think you can afford losing that guy. But he attacks the knight with tempo. He attacks the knight with tempo. Knight has to go. You got to be careful where you're placing that knight. This guy is attackable now. Bishop takes on e5. I think Magnus will just take it straight away. I think he would play bishop e5 immediately. I don't see why not. Bishop e5. Or maybe he wants to attack the knight again. But they can still dance around here. So, you know, they could play knight e6 and things. So I think better would be just simply take the pawn on e5 and then push this guy. Then push the d pawn, so to speak. No, he attacks the knight and knight e6 is exactly as I said. I mean, the only safe square for the time being. You can play the bishop though. Maybe you will be provoking black to pushing, thus weakening the e6 square. So I think the bishop should take. There you go. Rook took the pawn, but the bishop here also defends. I think you could go after the f7 square. You should go after the f7 square. It doesn't work f6 because I'm going to take the pawn for free. You start pushing the middle pawns, e respectively d. The bishop covers those two squares, so you can't move there with the knight. f6 being played, but the rook is not on a7 for you to take on f6. So rook has to play. You have to move the rook. Bishop c3. Now this guy's being attacked. He tries to attack and challenge the f6. So if black takes, white's going to take. And then white has to be careful about this black pawn, which Minh actually supports by pushing f6 to f5. White rook being attacked by the knight. Can you play this? And then something like this from white's point of view. But you got to be careful though. Whew. Wow. King supports the bishop in case knight takes and the rook wants to go someplace else. And this is actually the game in which Minh is the closest to posing some troubles here for Magnus. The problem is that Minh is on like 7 seconds on the clock or something. This is quite painful. Can you do rook d7? He moves the king closer. I think you have to take, you totally have to take the bishop now, stopping the f3 black pawn to moving one more time. Well, if you move it again, I'm going to win. I mean, I'm going to take the pawn, that is. Yeah, he goes for the queening. And when he goes for the queening, he give up on defending the f-pawn. That should be perhaps a draw. Yeah, draw by agreement. Draw by agreement, ladies and gents, because, yeah, they will be starting soon. So thanks for joining Jamie via TikTok. Let's have a look at another quick 5 minutes game here in between Magnus Carlsen. Live game, guys. This is a live game we're seeing together. Okie dokie. King's Indian defense again. English opening. Both players, fianchettos their bishops and castles the king. Black, and I think white will do. White will follow suit. Knight c3, castle short, you name it. Knight c3, castle short. Queen c2, I think it's another theoretical move here. Takes, pawn takes, queen takes. He moves the knight once again in the opening, knight e5, which is being attacked right now, the knight. Plays on d3. I think rook d8 is very appealing now. Always a good idea to take the open files or semi-open files for the rooks. There are a couple of good ideas here for black. Yeah, I was about to just highlight them, but Magnus is obviously faster and more accurate. c4 attacked by the bishop. If you play b3, you're going to get in trouble because of this diagonal. So just explaining for all of our friends, this is a little complication here, because c4 is hanging. c4 is hanging. How do you defend c4? You're going to play queen c2, or you're going to play queen b3. Queen b3, there you go. And knight c6, I was just about to say knight c6, because knight c6 means knight a5. White hasn't finished the development. Knight to c5 wants to say I'm attacking on b7, but this is a check with tempo. Now the bishop enjoys this long-range diagonal. He managed to give black double pawns. Looks interesting. White's to play. What are you playing? Do you take on b7? Do you push c4 to c5? Are you playing rook f to e1? What exactly is white supposed to do? Are you playing bishop f4? What do you play? This is the kind of position I think in which Minh got the closest to actually having more chances for attacking and putting problems for Magnus Carlsen himself. This position with white, it's promising because of the double pawns on the e-file. Double pawns are difficult to be defended because you have to keep pieces all the time to protect them. b7 is attackable. The black knight is attackable with rook e1. Bishop is very easy to develop the dark square white bishop to either e3, f4, or g5. Very naturally, you're going to play knight c3 sooner or later. So I think white enjoys the moment in which the more attacking chances are available for them. Knight c3, he opted, and I did say knight c3. He chose to develop. If knight takes, what do you take back with? You take with a pawn. You could, and then maybe you can play bishop a3. Again, this is a very good position for white, and if he does the right stuff, he should be having his attacking chances. Knight plays now, opening the bishop's diagonal and making some pressure. I wonder if queen to c5 is the intent here. I just wonder. Or maybe there is something else. Maybe there is something else. You can't really take on b7 with the bishop due to rook b8. Okay. f3, he tries to kick the knight away. either h6, which is painful, or back on f6 or e5, thus blocking the bishop's diagonal. Might we have bishop f4 though? Or is he going to sack an exchange? Interesting. That moves means queen can take on e6. Check. Or you could play bishop a3, asking for a friend. Which one is it first, guys? I think a check is a check, and you take the pawn and you're putting your queen right where it's meant to be. But he went bishop a3, which I did highlight. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually quite good. Bishop a3 attacks the queen and e7. I mean, developing pieces is absolutely paramount, my friends. Developing pieces is the best thing you could do for yourself. You can't leave your pieces to being idle on the back rank. You really must develop it. Queen to b6 now. He is happy to trading queens because once the pawn takes, rook's gonna hit this, and yeah. But I don't think white should be trading. Maybe you want to play queen a4 and then getting some rook over to b, also moving away from the bishop's attack. And also queen a4 takes knight c4 if black intends to play knight c4, no longer available for them. So queen a4 would be an idea. I mean, I would be thinking about playing queen a4 right now, my friends. He took on e7, and he wanted to say, if you capture, my pawn takes, and yeah. What do you do with the bishop? You have to play it. You have to play the bishop. Bishop to g5 goes. Knight plays. For this, that's exactly he wants to play. So queen c2 to defend against knight f2 check. So also queen c2 attacks the d3. He can, no, you can't defend it. There is a rook here. Sorry, there is a bishop attacking the d8. You can't play it. But he defends it with the rook, the other rook. He defends it with the rook. Okay. Should white be playing something like rook ad? You know, pressure on the pin piece. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's never a bad idea to put pressure on the pin piece. Rook ad1 attacks the knight twice. The rook and the queen is defended only once. Black needs to find resources to defend it. But he plays queen to e2. Interestingly, gives up on the c-pawn. Sorry, maybe I'm missing some stuff here, but the c3 is definitely takeable right now. Huh? What is the queen e2 doing? Okay, does he want to take with the rook now? Or does he want to play rook AB? Rook AB, there you go. There you go. Rook AB. This bishop on g2 really needs to do something, and I guess bishop h3 would be super happy to play. Right? There you go. You have to play bishop h3. And I think you can take it now with... No, you can't take it because there is actually two defenders. Apologies, not playable. Not now. Absolutely not now. Could you push this pawn? Yeah, but then the knight takes. Not a big deal. Yeah, but then you can play perhaps rook AD. Sorry, rook BD. Huh. So you could play... Okay, he wants to trade off things. And he attacks the bishop, actually. And he attacks the queen, so to speak. So that's a fork. Technically, we may just call this a fork. So you're very tempted to actually trade off the queens, which white shouldn't be very eager to, but I don't know what options you've got here available. So you got to take the queen. Knight takes now, attacking the c-pawn. The c-pawn will be lost, guys. The c4 to c5. White is having the bishop pair, but it doesn't make the most out of it. Now, if rook takes, you're actually losing the game because bishop e6 would check the king and attack the black rook on d7. So black actually loses the game. You know, so rook can't really take. Can't take, obviously. He won't take. He won't take with the rook. He's gonna do something else. I don't know what just yet, but he will. Okay. There's another problem. Of course, as per usual, Minh is low on time, lower than Magnus, that is. Attacking the undefended knight, a little bit over pin, but I guess b6, exactly, that just covers it. He traded. You could play rook c4 and try to fix this guy, so to speak, or maybe he waits for them. Bishop c4 as a natural obstacle. He places his pieces on light squares. Notice, guys, Minh tries to put his pieces on light squares where they cannot be attacked by the dark square bishop. And similarly, black would like to having his pawns on the black squares, which the white bishop can't reach for. Okay, bishop a little bit of pressure on this guy, therefore the rook can't move. If you planned on to, you might be having some issues. Attacking the rook with tempo. Now this guy becomes huntable. I don't know what you're going to do with the a3. If the a3 falls, I think he's already in a difficult position. He created the pass pawn. I think he's going to resign any minute, any second, because this is a pass pawn. There you go. Exactly as we said. It is super difficult to fight in this game here, whilst Magnus enjoys the free pawn on the a file. Incredibly difficult. 30-something seconds for Magnus. The more you trade the pieces, the bigger chances for black here. He's got actually two passes, but they need to pass through the white bishop's diagonal. So the black king will need to lend them a hand, or at least I think it's very instructive, this one, guys. Black needs to trade the two white pawns with the two black pawns and then move the king over to support the other two black pawns' advancement. So in theory, I think that's how it needs to be addressed. But it's easier said than done. Easier said than done. But let's see. I'd really be very curious to see how Magnus capitalizes on this. That is a check. And the bishop is overworked. The bishop is seriously overworked. Yeah, you can't. If you touch this guy, the other pawn is going to move. And yeah, he just lost. Very difficult for Minh. Really difficult. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Juan. Yeah, I think it's mission impossible for the Vietnamese grandmaster. Very difficult to play today here. Gioco Piano, guys, or the Italian game employed by Magnus Carlsen here. Developing the pieces, bishop can go to c2 anytime. d4 is going to happen at some point. Rook fe, knight can go f, g, and f5. So let me exactly, knight f1, knight g3. Or maybe knight e3. You can play either square, but if you go on e3, you're blocking your bishop, so to speak. So he developed the bishop first, and now you're going to take with what? With the knight, I reckon. You want to play with the knight, then jump over to d5, and I think that would be quite decent. It's a very good stuff. Could it be some looming bishop h3 sacrifices? So black has to be knight takes, exactly as I said, knight e3. Now in conjunction with the colliding with the bishop and a queen, white needs to be careful about this idea. Knight d5, exactly as I said. Attacking queen, attacking c7, challenging the black knight. Knight to d5, which I did mention. And that would take off a little bit the intensity of the black king. The attack onto the white king will diminish after the black knight takes, if the black knight were to take. We'll see about that. If knight takes d5. Yes, he did take. He did take. So less pressure now on the h3 and king's area, king's sides. Less pressure. This bishop is versatile, you could play, but I guess you don't want to give up on this pawn. You're not doing anything there anyway, so bishop c2 is more likely. Unless you want to play c4 and then get something like this. Okay, let's find out. Or do you want to play knight e2, knight e4? No, queen to e2. Triple attack on the black pawn, guys. Triple attack. So this guy's being attacked 3 times, defended 3 times right now. Queen to e3. The other white rook will be played. Exactly. As soon as I said it, Magnus just played it. Rook a to d. That's one of those incredibly natural things. And queen wants to come to c5. Queen wants to move to c5. And you're going to be attacking more weaknesses, more undefended pawns and squares. And also you are freeing up the knight and the rook to hit themselves on e5 because you can't take with a queen. So queen to c5 is a very good place for the white queen. Makes a lot of sense, but he plays c4, which I did mention previously. There is something also with bishop a4. I don't think it's a bad idea. Given the fact you have already a d5 and the c4 pawn, I think you can safely play bishop a4 and you attack the rook. You force the rook to move away. If they don't, they get in trouble. So, yeah. But it's black's turn, by the way. Is queen b6 playable for black here, or it just doesn't serve any big purpose? Or perhaps... Nah. Can you do knight h4? Knight h4 to prevent moving the white queen, and maybe if white takes, queen takes back with a queen. A little bit of pressure on the 4th rank. Maybe. I'm not sure. Knight h4. What can black play in this position? Queen b6? Yeah, queen b6, queen takes, pawn takes. Difficult. B6 though. And bishop a4, exactly as I said. A very simple move to play and highly efficient. And Minh just moved the rook. Now he does not have the light square. So that will be a big headache for black for the remainder of the game. Absolutely. Very difficult stuff having the bishop here. You can't double up the rooks on the e file, that is. So you either trade off that bishop or something, because you will not be able to double up your rooks. Neither e8 nor d7 for the black rooks. So yeah, maybe you wanna... So takes and takes. Now this guy is isolated, but the a2 white pawn is also isolated. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Knight now finally finds a better outpost. So you can't play g3. That would be a devastating move, and that would be a big blunder, which Magnus is not going to play. But just worth mentioning that if g3, knight can take on h3 with check. So you can't push g3 to kick the knight away. You cannot. You got to figure out something else. Also, if you take the pawn on e5, you're going to place your knight in a pin, because the rook pins the knight to the queen. So it's not an easy job to play in this way. Yep. Maybe it's time to moving the white queen. Maybe it's time to make a queen move or a pawn advancement. There you go. As soon as I said pawn advancement, boom, Magnus had just moved and the servers just updated the move. So yeah. Rook takes, queen takes. If rook takes, you're going to take with the white rook and queen takes, right? And then he's gonna play the other rook supported by the bishop. You can definitely make pressure with the other rook over the d file. I think it's getting really sharp and interesting now. You have to take that pawn. It's not a matter of not taking. You can't ignore that pawn. You have to take it. I think this is a forcing move. Yeah, I don't think black... Oh my god, what did he do? He moved the rook away. He didn't grab the pawn. Painful. Can white play something like this? So that the e5 is takeable? Queen b6 or queen a7? I think queen a7 better. I think queen a7 better. Interesting though. That is interesting. Queen a5 or queen a3 or what? Something to do with that dark square diagonal. I think Magnus is going to move queen along this diagonal. Or maybe he's going to play queen c5. He's going to be along this diagonal, guys. c5 looks sort of attractive, but because you keep an eye on the bishop too, so you never know. If you play queen c5, maybe if the black rook on d8 moves, maybe you might be able to grab that piece as a compensation. Maybe. So queen c5 would be my idea. But it could be something else that he sees and he's going to play differently. Let's find out. Yep, absolutely. Queen c5, queen c5. I like queen c5. Again, white shouldn't be pushing the g pawn because that's weakening terribly all the light squares. You're actually losing the game if you create that big weakness with g2 to g3. That's a disaster. He does take his time, right? What is he doing? Okay, queen c5. No, he took with the knight. He calculated and he was happy with knight captures. Now that knight is, we can say very well, guys, that knight is a bit pinned. All right. But we can play again. Queen c. Or you're going to play what? a7, b6. What are you going to play? Oops. Black's turn, by the way. Black's turn to do stuff here. If you play with this one, rook's going to take, rook's going to take. I'm no longer in a pin. You play bishop to b7. That's a bit more active. I think we can all acknowledge the bishop now looks a bit scarily here. Together with the knight, he doesn't take the white pawn just yet, but he increases the pressure on the g2. Knight combined with the bishop on b7. You never know. The white knight's still pinned. I think he might do something like, and now the bishop attacks the rook. My God. Pretty much the reversed thing there. Well, he's attacking the f7 square. Black is attacking the g2 square with a potential fork. And that's exactly what Minh plays. This is a fork. Queen, Ampri, rook under attack. So I suspect you have to save the queen, right? You're going to play queen b6, asking for a friend. I mean, or you're going to play queen g3, asking for another friend. You have to move the queen. And he's got 3 seconds on the clock. Magnus, move, man. What do you do? Oh my God. He lost on time. The first game Minh had won, ladies and gents. He fought bravely and he won, ultimately. Fabulous. Let me just briefly, who's better here? Is it black? Yep. A bit. Knight g4 is the stuff. You take my guy, I take your queen. So yeah, it is a bit better for black here. But Magnus, I think, out of elegance, he gave him the victory. Wow. Wow, what games. What fabulous games. Okay, guys. Shall we do a quick puzzle before Magnus returns and Minh and they play another one? They'll be keeping playing. Then they're going to play the 3 minutes batch, the 3 minutes games. Okay. What is white? Sorry, is black? Okay, black to play. Guys, feel free to give me your best moves here. What do we do? Let's have a look. Queen's on pre, right? So I have to react to that one as well. I could do a check though. Pawn takes. Yeah, and then I'll take the rook with check, and then bishop takes. Oh, I like that. So guys, I think it's one of those tactics, one of those counterintuitive tactics, my friends. It's knight h3 check, which I'm going to play, by the way. So again, knight h3, forcing move, by the way, check. Whether white takes or not, I don't think I do care very much. G takes h3, and that enables the rook to capture with tempo. King takes or not again, and bishop takes queen, knight takes, queen takes. So I think that's the way to play. Yep, and rook takes rook, king takes, bishop takes queen, knight takes, and queen takes. Okay. Let's look at this one now. Black to play again. Target is here. We have a check. King's gonna move. Then we're having another check, and that's the end of it. I think it's checkmate in 2 here. This, and then we're gonna play rook e6. And that is just checkmate in 2 moves. Thank you, David. Yes, knight h3. I've just read your message right now. I've just seen your message now on the screen. Excellent stuff. Thank you, David. Yes, I think you've seen that before me. Now we do have the chance to make a pin, and then maybe we can... And also g7 is hanging, it's worth mentioning. If we do that, though, black's going to castle long, and then they're going to get the rooks to attacking us if we castle short. So that's worth mentioning. If we play bishop b5, we make a pin. Then if they castle long, though, you know, you can't put pressure on the pin piece. So we can debate on this one, guys. We can debate on this one. Actually, that's quite an interesting, instructive position here. I'm not sure if I should making bishop b5. I'm not sure if I should capture on g7. Or perhaps, guys, maybe there is something else hidden here, but I'm not sure what that is. I gotta tell you, I'm not very, very sure about my next move in this position here. I'm not very sure. Bishop b5, queen takes g7. I'm attacking the castle. Could it be bishop a6? Could it be bishop a6, bishop takes? Could it be this? Bishop takes, queen takes. I mean, nah, it's bishop b5. No, it's bishop b5 because it's a lot of pressure on this guy here. Now, bishop takes, check. They could take with either, and then queen takes and stuff. Let me think. Oh, this and then this. Yeah, queen takes c5, bc, and knight pressure on the pin piece, and the king can't defend because it would be checked from the knight. So this one plays, and now we got pressure on the pinned piece. The knight attacks, the bishop pins, the piece will definitely be captured. Definitely will be captured. So have they returned? Is Magnus back with Minh? They are not. Maybe they're preparing for the next one. Okay, let's do another puzzle. What have we got in here? A very tactical position in which queen hits the rook. Knight is being pre. How many pieces have I gotten? 4 minor pieces versus 3. So I should be able to convert this material advantage, but how exactly? This one springs to mind because I'm attacking the queen. And the bishop takes, obviously. Queen takes. Queen takes, knight takes. Thus, I'm preserving the material advantage with a move like bishop d4. Bishop d4, queen d4, queen takes, and knight captures now. Okay, that was cool. Let's give it another go. The f7 is very critical now for black because knight attacks it and queen attacks it as well. I think we should take with the queen. Then king's gotta go. I wonder if there's something like smothered or something. And then knight g6. Pawn takes. I gotta think about this one. Queen f7 seems to be so natural though. And after king goes, maybe I'm just supposed to take on c7 really for this kind of ideas. And I'm attacking the rook as well. Oops, let me play queen to f3 to f7. Okay. Let me think again. I think queen should take on c7 now, guys. I think we should take on c7. And we're attacking this guy. And we're threatening, so to speak, this knight f7. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, sugar, that wasn't it. What was it then? Oh my god, that's so great, but I haven't seen it. Ah, okay. Okay, let's see if they had returned. Let's see if Magnus came back. To continuing playing versus Minlay. He is not back just yet. Guys, just reminding you, later on would be Nepomniachtchi with Abdul Satorov. And we'll try to cover that one too, guys, if you're more available. So we're going to call it a day for the time being. It's not too many friends online right now. And I aim to returning back maybe around 7 p.m.-ish and just try seeing together a couple of the games that those guys will be playing. Thanks for watching, though, or thanks for visiting. Subscribe this YouTube channel, guys, if you haven't done it, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much, guys.